Welcome, this is the Wildflower sampler video tutorial. We are making this amazing hoop with so many stitches. This is going to be fun. So your fabric's going to look, if you got the kit, your fabric's going to look a little different than the one I'm working with right now. This was printed too light, so yours is going to look like this nice buttery yellow, and that's it. So let's get started here. I'm gonna do one of these pink flowers first. I'm just making a little spot so we know where the center is. So we're gonna do a chain stitch rose here in the middle. Sometimes I like to put a little stitch here to start. I'm just gonna put a little French knot in the middle that we can then kind of spiral out from. And what that does for me is it kind of helps me know where I'm going. It kind of helps to fill in that very, very center spot. So you could even do a little cross stitch there. You could do just a tiny little spot of satin stitch, whatever you would like. So we're going to do chain stitch, basically spiraling out. So I'm just starting on one side of my center, coming out and going back down the same hole. I'm going to come up a stitch length away. And these are pretty tiny stitches here because we are going in a circle. Whoa. I pulled my tail and I pulled, I don't even know, off to an excellent start. I'm just going to snip this. There. Good as new. Okay. So I'm going to go back down that hole I just went up. It's a little kind of tricky to get in there. Just do your best. Come up a stitch length away, catch, whoa, catch my loop to make my second chain, like so, and I'm going to keep going. I just grabbed an extra light. This color is just so dark. It's a little hard to see. So you can kind of vary the tension here. I feel like mine is kind of in between. If you want, you can have them tighter, or you could have it looser. So when I did the flowers for this piece, I used a full 6 strands, so it's just the thread right off the thread card or right off the skein if you're using your own floss. If you don't like your thread that thick, then go ahead and use fewer ply. So I'm starting to run out of space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, kind of leaving kind of a long anchor. And then I'm actually going to split that anchor. Add one extra stitch. I'm just trying to cover my guidelines and help this center look more like a circle. And that kind of tapers out the chain stitch there. So instead of like an abrupt end, we get kind of a smoother end. All right, so now we're going to use this like pretty pink, purpley pink. And we're going to be doing our detached chain stitches here. So I think I recommended doing the smaller ones first. And those are the ones in the background. So I don't know if you can see. Actually, I kind of covered it up, right? So here's a background one. It should be like every other one, essentially. So for those, I did double detached chain stitch, and then for the larger ones I did like a triple. And it's up to you if you want to do yours from the inside out or the outside in. I find that mine look better from the inside out, so I do my small inner detached chain stitch first, and we're doing them so that they, you know, the spiky part is pointing away from the center of the flower. So you just kind of center it on the petal, and then the second one goes and covers the guideline. So out and back down the same hole, and then tack it down at the other end. So this just gets tacked down right above my tiny one. And here you can kind of fiddle with it a little bit to make sure it doesn't get covered all the way, to make sure you have the right tension. If you pull too tight, you're going to kind of lose the effect. We don't want that. Okay, let's keep going. Do some more. So I can show you how to do the ones on top. So there's a lot going on in this piece, obviously. We have a nice collage of pretty flowers, and there's definitely a lot of overlap going on. I have found it easier today to do the flowers on top first, to an extent. At least these larger ones. These smaller ones, I found they're easier to do just at the end because they're going to be overlapping a lot of these leaves. But here I found it easier to do like this petal first, and then do this leaf kind of up to the petal. Same with all these, like all the leaves I did after the larger flowers. So try it like that. If that doesn't make sense, if that's not working for you, then don't do it like that. You know, do it the opposite. There's definitely some back and forth. And there's no wrong way. How on earth did I fit 3? Did I really fit 3? Yeah, I really did. I really did fit 3 of these on these forward petals. Definitely looks like it's going to be too close, huh? Oops, I pulled that too tight. If you do pull too tight, you can come in and loosen up your leaf, or your loop. Try again. Okay. That's good. What on earth? How are we going to make this work? Let's see. Don't you love just having to do this problem solving on the fly with me? There's barely any room, so clearly I miscalculated when I did my first one. It should have been more towards the petal edge. Oh no. So clearly they can be a little bit fiddly. Okay. I feel like we need to do another one of those, because that was, I wouldn't call it a disaster, but did I do it again? Did I make it too close? I'll really make this little one little. So we have enough room for 3. But you know what? You don't have to do 3. You can just do 2 on all of them. This is actually the smaller of the 2 pink flowers that I'm working on. So there's a lot more room on the bigger one. So you might find that on this smaller one, like whatever, Jessica, we're just doing 2. And maybe just do a single on the one in the back. This really didn't grab that very well. There we go. Something like this. Yeah. And if you want, I mean, you can try. So let's pretend, just pretend I've already done the 2 center ones here on this one. Really, you can go either way with these petals, because you could do those larger forward petals first, and then you can come in and just do the smaller one here. And really, we could get away with just doing like a single. Just tucked in here. So it's up to you how you want to do it. I think they both look fine. Here, I just want to show you I did, let's see. Like here, where's the pointing tool? Oh no, here we are. Okay. So here, like I ran out of room when I was doing it. I was doing it the opposite. I was doing the large flowers first when I was practicing this one. And I ran out of room, so you can see. So I just did like, here's a single detached chain stitch. And then I just did like a tiny stitch right here to make it look like, oh, something was back there. So same here, you can see it's just like single detached little stitch. But these are triples. Triple, triple, triple. That's a single. Are these all singles? Looks like I need to update my instructions. These are doubles. See, why would I do that? Why would I make the doubles on the smaller flower? Who knows? Nobody knows. All right, I'm going to update those instructions because I didn't say what I did entirely. All right, so those are those flowers. All right, so let's jump to the these guys here. We'll do our daisies. So first we're gonna let's go ahead and do the turkey work first. So I have this yellow green color. If you've never done turkey work before, you may want to take a look at just some like easy turkey work, like in a row. We're in a circle here, so we'll go ahead and do like a couple rows. We'll see if that works. Usually I'm not quite this methodical, but for your benefit, hopefully. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, actually I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to start on that middle row. Okay. So I'm going to come down, I'm leaving a tail, and I'm going to do like a back stitch to kind of tack this tail here. So now I'm going to come up through that back stitch. Either you can come up through this side, but that's good. See how my turkey work is kind of facing way over here. It's like going sideways. I'm actually going to split this stitch because that way I'm going to have a turkey work that kind of comes out more, right? So I'm going to go down, and here's my loop. And I'm going to do another back stitch, tack it down. And again, here's another loop. I'm splitting. and back down. And this is going to be like a really, 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 really tiny back stitch. Okay, so now I'll do this bottom row, kind of back the way I came. So I'm going to come up. It's a little weird, right? Because I didn't come from the top this time. I'm starting a new row. So I'm just starting with a loop. I'm holding my loop up so I don't pull it. I'm going to tack that down. I'm popping up through it. Going down here and leaving a loop. And these loops can be pretty short because we're going to trim them. A teeny, teeny, teeny tiny stitch here. Okay, and now I'm going to jump to that top row. And the reason I wanted to do the top row last is because I'm going to do it, I guess, upside down compared to what we just did. So I'm actually holding my loop down and I come down, and then I'm having my back stitch on this side, pushing my loop down because I want this to happen, right? I want it all kind of pushing towards each other. Like the ones on the bottom are pushing up, the ones on the top are pushing down, the ones in the middle, you gotta just pick one. And our little back stitch here. Now in the end, it's pretty secure. If you want to finish by actually just coming up and then trimming, give yourself a little extra. So when you trim your turkey work, you know, less is more. It's like cutting your own bangs, like I've said before, doing these. You just start small, you know, you don't want to overdo it because I mean, if you cut it too short, that's the end. So just make sure you have nice sharp scissors. I kind of do the edges to make like a pom-pom shape. I try to round it in theory. Okay. All right, I trimmed mine a little bit more. I didn't want to be too boring there with that. But I couldn't not finish. Okay, so now we're going to do our heavy chain stitch for the petals on these. And I find sometimes the first stitch is a little tricky. So sometimes I will... So when we back up, so when we do a heavy chain stitch, it's kind of based on a reverse chain stitch. So our first stitch is the anchor stitch that we're going to be coming into. So sometimes I like to do like an anchor stitch here, but then I'll actually not do that one yet, because what happens, excuse me, is that when I start pulling on that, it gets longer and looser. So sometimes I like to just make a big knotted mess, apparently. My goodness. My goodness. Okay. So come here, and then I'll go back here. Because if I start pulling on that, it gets looser, but now I have this like extra, I don't even know how to describe it. Try doing it like this and try doing it not like that. And if you notice a difference, then enjoy. If you don't notice a difference, then just shake your head and say, I don't know what the heck Jessica's talking about, and she doesn't either, and that might be true too. Okay, so I came up a stitch length away, I wove under my anchor stitch, and then I'm going to come back down that hole I just went up. Beautiful. I'm gonna do it again. So if I was doing reverse chain stitch, I would just go under this previous chain, correct? But I'm doing heavy, so I'm actually gonna go under that initial anchor we made. And you probably noticed that my stitches are super duper teeny tiny, which I recommend for this. Go down. Because these are very short petals, so if you want to get any stitches in, you gotta make them pretty small. All right, so stitch length away. This time we're going under the previous 2 stitches, which is here. And then I'll do one more. I'll say that ends up underneath that pink petal. And again, not just under this first one. We want to get under this and this. So there's some wiggling involved. Once again, I feel like this is not the best color to demo. Now we have white that's hard to see. Let's see if I get more shadow on it. That might help. Okay, so I do want to demo over here so you can see. Here I have my petals on top versus like over here I did the daisy petals underneath the red flower. It's up to you, like if you want it to be exactly like mine as far as where what overlaps what. If you are going to have this daisy underneath this red flower, you could just, stop here. Or you can do the red flower first and then stop up to it. It really depends. I'm going to show you what I did on the other one, which was I actually had these overlapping, and then I did the satin stitch on top. Although that's kind of deceptive. But I did it on top but underneath. Yeah, see, that made no sense. I mean to say I did it second, but I did it tucked under. So here I'm gonna not do that weird thing. So maybe I can demo what I was trying to say. So we're weaving. So I need to make sure like this is really tight, because when I start weaving under this, it's gonna pull it, right, and make it longer. And if it's really long, then I lose out on this chain stitch that I actually want to do, and I end up with this like long anchor to start and less space to actually get into the heavy chain stitch. Hopefully that was better communication that time. Where is it? Here's the anchor. That worked out okay. I think just being mindful of it is probably a better solution than doing that weird jumping around thing I was trying to describe. And if you get in here and you're doing these and you're like, how did she fit so many petals in here? You can always have some of them just be regular reverse chain stitch if there's just not enough space. Oops. So. may fit more. I tried to make them a little longer than that. Here, let's see, how many did I get here? That's quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. It looks like 4. So I think I just did 3 here. I feel like this one could use another stitch. If you're not into this heavy chain, you can always do the regular chain, but you could also just thicken up your thread. So here, if you still want to fit a petal in there, it actually doesn't even look like we need one, and this guideline's going to get covered up. So maybe I'll actually skip that one. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, as far as you could always get like instead of 6 ply, you could do 12 ply on your needle, and just do like the regular chain if you want. All right, so we're gonna move over to this red flower here, and we're gonna start by doing some French knots in the middle here. We're just gonna be doing a woven wheel. Do whatever you want in the center. I just think French knots always look nice. So I do one wrap, I put my needle down near where I came up, pull to the left to get that wrapped down to the surface of the fabric, and then pull through. I just need to trim my tail down here. There we go. If you want to get fancy, maybe like colonial knots instead. They kind of have this crazy 8 wrap instead. And go down. I'm just showing off because I actually remembered how to do a colonial knot. Okay. So whatever kind of nonsense you want to put in the center, and then we're going to be doing our spokes. So we want 5 spokes. 1, 2, 3. So I have this deck of cards I created in 2022 that has these basic hand embroidery stitches, and this year I completed the second deck. Okay, I'm going to pause that conversation for a second. Okay, so I did my spokes. I just come out near the center, right? And then I'm going to start weaving over, under. So I'm going to go over and then under, over the next one, under the one after that. Oh, this is going to be quite painful. Usually I do this without having my hoop on a clamp, so I can rotate the hoop instead of rotating my wrists. And it's much easier. Okay, so the second deck, when I was starting it, I actually made this pattern in it. So it includes a lot of the stitches from that deck. So the turkey work's in there, these heavy chain stitches, the double and triple detached chain stitches. Well, I guess that's it. That's not that much. But the reason I thought of that was because a colonial knot is in it, and so I actually had to finally learn how to do a colonial knot, and I had to like make a diagram and a video and take pictures and stuff, so I did it enough times, because before I just could never remember, like, how's it go again? And that's still true for a lot of stitches. I mean, Think about how many stitches there are out there. There's a lot. So I think it'd almost be bizarre. Okay, I'm going to actually have to teach again here. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. This little guy up here, I'm actually going to just add a stitch to cover that. So we don't have to worry about that single ply. I don't know where it's going or where it came from, but we're just going to cover it. Now we don't have to think about it ever again. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stitches that I am familiar with, but like I have to look them up. I can't remember them. You know, I don't have just like a encyclopedia of stitches in my head. So don't feel bad if you're like, you know, always have to look up stuff. That's why it's written down, right? We only have so much room in our brains. I have notes everywhere. Okay, so now I'm moved on to my next color. We're just doing the satin stitch here. So the stitch direction is just out from the center radial. So I like to start in the middle to kind of make a guideline for myself. Make sure you're coming up outside of your guidelines. These are permanent. I think I mentioned that, but you will not be able to erase these, so be sure you cover them. So it's up to you here if you want to do some like compensation. So if you want to just keep your stitches the same direction for this entire leaf, or petal, excuse me, my goodness, it's just one of those days. Or if you want to kind of transition it, it's up to you. Really, whatever's easiest. I think I'm just going to keep mine the same because I find that when I keep it the same, it's easier to tell the difference between the two petals next to each other. And for these, you can see I started with one of the top petals. So be gentle with your tension here. You want the tension of your thread to match your fabric. Speaking of fabric, make sure your fabric is nice and tight in your hoop. So you can see I can easily slip my needle under here. If doing satin stitch with this many plies of thread is just not okay with you, then drop down to fewer. Okay, so here will be a little tricky. So this is always where I'm like, what should we do first? Should we do the petal on top first? Should we do a petal on bottom first? And I don't think there's a wrong answer. If we do, actually what I'll do is I'll do a petal on top, a daisy petal on top, so we can have them side by side. I think there's like pros and cons either way. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity in this pattern to try both. So and what works on one pattern might not work on another pattern. Because this is kind of tricky, right? Getting in here. Like the easiest solution here is just to have the white petals be behind the red petals. So you don't even stitch them, right? You just stitch them up to the red petal. And you don't have to worry about this at all. You can just ignore this problem. petal. And let's see, ooh, I have a tiny bit of this floss left. We'll see if we can make this happen. All right. So I'm gonna kind of go off the official guidelines here just so I can demonstrate. I'm gonna put a petal here. Oh man. I got snagged and my needle came out of my thread. But everything's okay. Alright, so here we go, Uncharted Territory. So I find that when I am stitching on top of Satin Stitch, it's really important that when I'm either coming up or going down through the Satin Stitch, that I'm not going in between stitches, like, ugh. Okay, I tried to go in between the stitches. I think I kind of did. But basically what happens is when you go in between, let me find a needle. There you go. If I go, you know, find a spot in between the stitches, right, like this, it kind of pushes them apart. I mean, I'm exaggerating it, obviously. But, so what's better is to try to pierce a stitch. So I'm piercing that 6 ply rather than coming up in between. And be very cautious of your tension. I'm like barely breathing. See this up between. I think that's okay. So hopefully you can see both options have challenges. Maybe try a little bit of both. See what you prefer. Oh yeah, see that one? I feel like maybe I didn't. Maybe I went in between stitches there. But it works. It works. Okay, so that's the red flowers. What's next? Oh, we're going to do these fun blue-green flowers. Let's see, let's find one here. Let's just do this one down here, yeah? So we're going to start with just some Satin Stitch for the center of it. And I don't know, I just default to horizontal stitch direction. That's a pretty awful circle, but we'll go with it. Okay, now we need that blue-green color. And you're going to start on the edge somewhere. Oops. So these are kind of cool because you can make them as dense or not dense as you like. So when we traditionally do this stitch, we actually come back to the center, but in this case we're not. We're gonna just come back and use the edge of this circle. So, okay, let's just go. All right, come up on the edge. I'm gonna go down on the edge of my circle, and I'm going to leave a loop, and I'm going to come up again on the edge, and I'm going to catch my loop. Like so. And I'm just going to keep going. So now I come down to the right, catch my loop towards the right, pull, cute, right? Trying to pull that peach back out. Sorry, I'll just trim it. So the more stitches you use, the more coverage you're going to have. Luckily, the guideline's just the outline, which is going to get covered however many stitches you put inside. Get out of here, you. I need to go in the back and do some tidying up, clearly. Alright, so here's my last one. See if I can pull those. No. Oops. Oh, that was almost very dangerous. I just need to pull that peach fuzz here. That's in the back. Either trim it or pull it from the back. Okay, so to finish, I try to kind of mimic the rest of the look. Doing a little anchor stitch, like so. Cute. Awesome. So once you've done all your flowers, I would then recommend coming in and doing the leaves. So there are 3 different types of leaves we do here. The first one I'm going to demo is the attached fly stitch. I'm just making up words now. So I like to start with a center line, and then I start making my fly stitches down the sides. So I come up on my guideline, come down on the right side, and then I'm going to catch this loop here to make a little fly stitch. I'm sorry, I called this attached fly stitch, and this is filling with fly stitch. My apologies. We're gonna do attached fly stitch over here. I always confuse them because these are also attached. I guess this is like filling with attached fly, whatever. Just make a bunch of fly stitches and have them touching. So when I do it, I'm having, so that these little anchor stitches, they're all touching. So I come up basically where I went down for the last one to make the next one. And you can see that the stitch angle changes as we come down. So the first one is a lot more angled. These ones start to flatten out. And as we get down to the flower, you're probably going to have to modify what you're doing to just kind of fill in the space. So for mine, it looks like I got somewhere around there, and then to kind of fill in the space here, I just did some stitches to kind of mimic something like that. Okay, here it is. Where is it? Here. So you can see these are just like straight stitches, satin stitch, if you want to call it. Alright, so then next we'll move on to the fishbone, which is right next to it. Starts the same with a center line. But then we're going to come up on the right, cross over to the left, up on the left, cross over to the right, and work our way all the way down. Again, make sure you cover your guidelines. This is a weird angle. I usually do mine so that they're straight up and down from my vantage point. So as you get towards the bottom and as you run into your flower, you're going to be doing the same thing where basically just fill in with some straight stitches. You can try to play with the angle so it looks like it's actually, we're still actually doing the fishbone stitch. Something like that. Let's see. Yeah, pretty much what I did. So here we had to sneak in these like fake stitches, right? Cool. Alright, so now let's actually do this attached fly. So we are going to come up one of the arms, go down on the other, and then I'm going to catch here, and I'm going to make a long anchor to the next fly stitch, and repeat. I'm trying to come up in the same hole. There we go. I see a cat here. My cats are just behind me in a bin, purring and sleeping and I had to take a pause and pet them, so it looks like I brought a cat hair with me. So you can see this is very similar to the filling leaf we did, but we don't have that initial straight stitch and our fly stitches are not touching. So we're getting more of a fern. Oh, speaking of ferns, let's see, where's a fern stitch nearby? I'll have to move the camera. We'll go ahead and, since we're in a good spot to do the chained feather, I'll go ahead and do that. So, chained feather, we're using the, this other green color. So, these like zigzag lines, those are the chain feathers. So, where I made the guidelines, that's supposed to be like the backbone of it. So, you really want to start like a stitch length away. Go back down that same hole, catch your chain stitch on that guideline. Oh, what did I do? Oh, something bad. Okay, crisis averted. I had a knot, and I went through the knot, and it was not good. Okay, here we go. So, chain feather stitch is just made up of these detached chain stitches with long tails, like so. So our next one, this is the tail for the next one, so it's going to be pointing up here. So I'm going to come from here. Like so. So it's kind of an illusion. It looks like these are connected, but they're not, right? They're all individual detached chain stitches, just set at angles to make them look like kind of cool. Okie doke. So we're gonna actually move down here because we are going to fill a leaf with one. So it's up to you if you want to do like put a little guideline here or not. I don't know if this will help, but we'll try. So I start with a single one down the center instead of angled, and when I fill with these chain feather stitches, I don't exaggerate the anchor stitch quite so much. Because then we won't have very good filling if we do that. We'll have a lot of fabric showing through if we keep them too spaced apart, right? We're trying to fill it, not make a vine. So pick a side, any side to start on. Again, I feel like I'm doing this upside down. So there's a zig, and then we'll do a zag. I'm making this really tight. You're basically filling with detached chain stitches. And they're kind of staggered, so it looks like the chain feather. And if you're struggling to cover the guideline, go way beyond it. Like way out here. Well, that's kind of excessive, but we'll come out here. See, I'm way beyond it. got weird. Because I made it so big and I have this flower in the way. But we just do the best we can, right? Alright, something like that. That was like that turned out like gigantic. I'll show you. This one's like so much smaller. So, you can see here's the first one. What did I do here? This is interesting. It looks like I went under this petal. Oh, sorry. You can't even see what I'm talking about. Here we go. I actually went under the petal for kicks, I guess. So I did the first one, then I did 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So I did 5, and here I did. I added quite a few more, but both are correct and both look cool. So do what works for you, right? Okay, I think we have our little fern stitches we need to do. Let's see. Oh, here's one. It's like hidden. I guess may as well do that one, right? So, oh no, that one's another fly stitch. All right, so I guess we are going back up to the top here, which is a little bit awkward, but we'll see if we can do it. Oops. So these are pretty simple. We are basically just using a bunch of back stitches for each little segment of the fern or the vine, whatever you want to call it. So for here, I have to go from the bottom up because we don't want to undo the last stitch we did. So just a bunch of straight stitches. It's pretty simple. Actually, the way I usually do it, so I don't have to think too much, is I do the main vine first as like a back stitch, like this. And then I will make my way back down, doing these straight stitches from out to in. And that way I don't have to use my brain quite as much as far as, you know, which direction does this stitch need to go. And I am out of thread. So they all kind of converge there at those intersections. Okie doke. That's a fern stitch. And then, let's see, we just have a couple more things left to do. I'll show you these interesting fly stitch flowers. Man, it's not been my day here. We're gonna make it work. Okay, so there are guidelines on here that you can just try to copy. So these are, again, this is like the fly stitch. We did the flat attached fly stitch. We come up and go down one side of the branch, down the other side of the branch. We catch the loop here. And then we go down in the center. So we're going to do that 3 times. And I try to make them all go down the same hole, or close to it. Hello, weird green thread. Welcome. So you can just do the 4 if you want. And for this small one, it's kind of fine to stop there. But if you'd like to keep going, then you can do that again on top, but kind of shifted. So I'll come up the center, which like in between these two, right? And then I'll go down here. Or actually, I guess we could make it really big and just do 2. One big one there. Well, sorry, I'll keep to I'll keep to the instructions. So here it gets a little crowded, right? Of course, I picked a tiny one. Here, we'll just double up on this one. And we'll say it comes here. So you can see there's no exact science to where I'm coming up and going down. You're just making a bunch of fly stitches and you're having them connect in the center, and you're concentrating on making all the arms of the flies kind of fill in that circle. So in the end you have this like puffball flower. It reminds me of those flowers on chives, especially this color. That's the right color for it, right? Okay, so to end, we have all these little sweet, tiny flowers made with French knots. So let's go ahead and do those. So we're coming up. So as far as these circles go, I like to come up on one edge of the circle, do my wrap, place my needle down on the other side of that circle, and that mostly centers my French knot so that it covers that guideline, that circle guideline. And then we do one of our purples. Ooh, wow, that was a lot. Okay, here's a purple, and I do the same thing. I did 6 petals. You can do more wraps if you want. I just like to do single wraps, unless I'm trying to fill a bunch of space, because they're just much easier to pull through. So these are, I find these easy to do on top of leaves and whatnot. So same with those little puffball flowers. So that's why I suggest saving them for the end. You can easily do them on top of your leaves. And you're free to add more than is designated. You're free to use different colors. At the end, just get in there and have fun. So if you have questions, please email me. I'm always happy to help. Hopefully you'll catch me on a little bit better day than today, where I'm a little bit all over the place, but hopefully still successfully showed you how to do all these stitches. The most important part, of course, have fun. Okay, see ya.